behind bars. And for me, realizing that, I mean, in our culture now, it's a challenge to lead. And, you think about like, growing up in church, the churches that I went to, I mean, they had a million meetings and they would talk a lot and they would plan and they would structure and they still never got to a resolution because everybody had a million opinions about the million meetings. And here was Paul. Paul had silence and he led. And those that he was leading trusted him while he trusted the Lord. So Paul's heart shows us that living together in unity requires truly knowing someone and trusting them. Paul trusted the Lord with his life. Whether he would live or die joyfully in prison or get to continue his ministry, fulfilling a deep heart's desire to see the Philippi church restored. He loved and trusted so much that he couldn't get there. He would send his best, most trustworthy friends to go and bless them. And his friends trusted Paul and Paul's relationship with God. For him to say that it is stirring in my heart to send Epaphroditus, and I will send him immediately. Okay, so that right there, like, I was thinking about that. And I'm like, if Papa Doug came to me and said, it's stirring in my heart to send you immediately to Mexico, right? I think all of us would kind of have the same thought. Okay, I got to pray about that. I got to make sure, the Lord wants to send me there. And then if it was a yes, all right, well, raise the funds, get on a flight, connect with the people, and boom. But Paul had the audacity to say to the Philippi church, I'm going to send him immediately. And there's such a depth of trust in that. I care so much for you. I'm connecting with Epaphroditus. I don't know if he knew this before or after, but even the journey, the confidence of he's coming immediately, which back in that culture was not going to be immediately. It's not like our culture now. So, and for him to make that trip, that is the ultimate sacrifice of laying down your life because you're traveling the hundreds of miles. I know Rich probably could unpack that as far as, what that looked like. But he's leaving everything he knows. He doesn't know what harm he's going to encounter on the way there. He doesn't know if he'll ever go back to his other place. So it's just a laid down lover and trust for Paul. So we get a very small snapshot into what healthy relational connection looks like when doing ministry and how casting down selfish ambition can, in fact, lead to trust. We all know we live in a very different culture with a lot of noise and a lot of judgment. And I love this piece about Paul because, even as we were doing the encountering this morning, I had to wonder how many of those Paul had in prison to truly be able to let go and trust God and trust his friends. And, if anybody could doubt, I would think it would be Paul. Paul was absolutely deceived. He had the radical transformation. And, I just kind of compare that to my mind, and I'd be like, well, I don't know. What if they turned the wrong corner? What if I can't truly trust these people? I really want to see them bless those I love dearly, but, I haven't heard from them from a long time. I only get a letter here or there. How can I truly trust them and not fully land on the releasing and letting go, knowing that God's going to do his complete work, unless I heard it from God himself. And so I believe that as Paul was in prison, Paul did a lot of inner work in his own heart with the Lord to trust the Lord and to trust himself. And I think that, as I look at like relationally and in my relationships and my lack of, in the past, I'm kind of challenged by that because I have serious trust issues. You may not know it on the outside, but I am very careful and cautious and analyze every single thing if I'm going to take another little step deeper into a relationship because I've been burned so many times. And in doing that, it's all of my soul's analysis, right? It's the repeat. It's the old creation. It's the old man. It's the wounds speaking. And I do remember when I first came to Celebration, my lack of trust was like zero. I was like, it's me and God. I'm going to get far because it's me and God. I don't need anybody. And of course I'm around y'all, and we're talking about relationships all the time and family, so that like just poked every little thing that it could possibly poke. And I finally was like, Lord, I don't know what to do because I don't trust. And I would ask him for each person that I engaged in a relationship and went a little bit deeper. I'm like, are they trustworthy? Is this the person that you want to have in my life? Because I didn't trust myself at that point. And he said yes. And so that's what I had to trust that I was hearing from him, and those are the people that he wanted in my life. And I'm incredibly thankful, but I couldn't trust myself at that point. And I think that was where Paul was. I think Paul heard from the Lord. He knew he could trust his friends to bless others. And so my question would be, as we're beginning to grow more in unity with each other, how can we kind of unpack this revelation of trusting others more, trusting the Lord more, and, what stands out for you as far as going just that next little step more with trusting the Father and trusting those that He has given us as family.
I don't know if I can speak into all that, but the first thing that really was coming to my heart in terms of us building that trust with each other is vulnerability, us being willing to share our weaknesses, not just our strengths. To be able to show the different parts of ourselves so that others can know, like, this person has allowed me into their heart and into their life. And I think it allows barriers to come down for others as well. I've just found that to be true. And, as I've done that, and I've seen that in our family, as we've really gone through things and gone through deep things and deep waters. And I was thinking about Paul and the people in those times, the believers, really were at a place of complete surrender, seeing the fruit of that when they decided to follow Jesus. They were saying, like, I am risking my life, my reputation, my comfort, all of those things in order to be, all in with the Lord. And when you see someone do that, and when they've suffered or they've gone through persecution or they've gone through challenges or hard things, and they've continued to follow the Lord and continue to want their life to be a vessel of of union, of his love and his expression of love and glory. I just think it allows other people to feel more trusting of others that have gone through things like that and are still following and still willing, because you see the character and you see, So anyway, that's what I would think.
I feel like kind of like what's happened to you, the more healing we get, the more trusting we become. And it's like we're not putting any expectations on people for what they're lacking or not lacking. We're just like loving them where they're at, because literally we know how much we're loved. And so, I've battled with that too. Like I'd pour into people and I would like give it like with a purity, and then there would be like something. I don't think there's anything I did wrong, but then they would just take off, Like, Lord, is there anything that I did wrong? Like, because my heart is to be in relationship with people. But then I just had that dialogue with the Father. It's like, it's my love for them. It's my love for you. Ultimately, we're in relationships, and it's just, and it's not holding on to anything, and just really loving well, and not getting hurt by what we're kind of going through with the Danny Sook stuff. We're not getting hurt by, people's shortcomings, or if they're not treating us the way we need to be treated, or loved the way we need to be loved, So I just feel like if we get a hold of this unconditional love, and we know what love feels like, we know what love is, and that's the finished work of Jesus, the resurrected life in us, that we can be the ones that bring health and fulfillment in relationship, and we're not trying to hold on to anything. We're just being open and loving, right?
Okay. My heart's feeling a little sensitive this morning, so if I cry, I cry. Vulnerability. I really related with a lot of what Amber said, and broken trust from the past, and me being vulnerable has been hard because I want to put on, it's like the protective mechanism that everything's okay with me, and when I'm going through something and sometimes I don't understand what I'm going through, it makes me want to isolate myself because I don't want anybody to think something's wrong with me. So this past week, as my heart's been more sensitive lately, and I feel the Lord stirring in me, but I'm a little bit like, I don't know what he's doing, but I feel a little bit quiet in it. And so my friend Amber called me, and I said, I'm not feeling totally right now, and this is what's going on with me. And my protective part wants me to not open up and share this, that everything's okay with me. I'm keeping up with everything, my relationships, with work, everything, but I'm kind of, in a little bit of in a place right now, and that was kind of big for me, opening up and just being vulnerable with the place that I'm in, not hiding and protecting that, and that it's okay to be going through these things. And the Lord is working in these things. And it gave her an opportunity to speak into the place that I'm in too, which encouraged me as well. And so, knowing that I already know he's in it with me, but then to include a friend in it as well with me really, really helped me and encouraged me. And I'm just walking through it, So, yeah, it's helping me to trust and open up.
Well, I'm going to be the contrarian here. I don't think I can trust people. I don't think any of us can trust people. But there's a big important but. I can trust God. And I can trust God to love me So even when somebody who loves me, and I know they love me, hurts me, lets me down, does whatever they do, because we're just human, I don't have to get all bent out of shape about it, because I just go into God. And that's where I find my acceptance, my love, my value. And then I can accept, they're just a human being like me. I hurt people too. And then I don't get caught up in the swirl, that swirl of, oh, I can't be vulnerable and I have to do this and do that. So for me, what I've learned is it's more about me consistently abiding in the Lord, consistently being one with Him. And then as I do relationship with human beings, I can tolerate and I can see the goodness in it, even when there's difficulty in it.
Thank you, Diane. That's so good. We don't trust anybody. Trust you guys. And I want to be honoring, this is beautiful. Amber, thank you for bringing this. I would love to share, and my spirit is just bubbling for something that I saw here. And I don't know if you would allow me to share or if you just want to continue this flow. I'm okay with that, so I'll pass the mic. I don't want to take away from the flow.
I understand, like everything, we're all relating, absolutely, because we are human. One of the things God had me to do with Him alone is that one scripture in Romans 12:2. Let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. I had to surrender to that from all avenues, everything. But then when it became more real, rather than those are just words, God then showed me and said, start looking at people as spirit. When you start looking at people, they are spirit. They're not bodies. The Lord can move and do a lot more in instantly giving you this revelation. And going like what Diane said, that's plain. You have to say it that way. If you constantly want to see yourself in flesh, you're going to constantly thinking of the past that you can't get through. But if you can let God transform you, and I'm just giving what I went through, change you into a new person by the way you think, you got to willing to say, I look at all of you, you're spirit. And our eyes are off ourself. Our eyes are off of everything we cannot do. And the healing begins.
I don't know why I keep thinking about, a long time ago, Heidi Baker said, I think most of you guys know Heidi Baker, Mama Heidi. She said, God doesn't want to bring orphans into an orphanage. He's bringing, sons and daughters back home into a family, right? So it's beautiful that we're even dialoguing, right? And we're going after relationship, honesty, vulnerability, trust. It's beautiful because this is what we need to become a healthy family, to thrive. So anybody who needs to come in off the street can come into a healthy, thriving family that's gone through the journey of being vulnerable together, being honest, like you said, being real with our trust issues. And I was remembering my mom broke her ankle in 2009, and my stepdad, I was in Michigan, he called me up, hey, can you come out, because he's working full time. So I flew out, and I got on the airplane, I sat next to this lady, and we were dialoguing, and she's a Christian, and she's a nurse, and we were just talking about different things, and she said, yeah, God was challenging me to like go for this role on one of the floors to oversee the entire floor of nurses. And she said it felt very overwhelming, but God was really challenging me. And she's like, God, I don't have the experience. He's like, who do you think would I rather want to have that level of authority except for my daughter? So she went before the board, and the whole board was asking her just a litany of questions. And they said, what do you think is your biggest weakness? And she said, I think that I just trust people too much. And without skipping a beat, I said, that's funny you said that, because I think my biggest weakness is I don't trust people at all. My whole life, my experience is like, yeah, that's what I learned, to trust nobody. And then within a heartbeat, she said, I don't think it's that you don't trust people, it's that you don't trust God to protect you in your relationships with people. And as soon as she said that, it felt like truth went poof. And that was on my way to go see my mom, who I'd had a really disconnected, distrustful relationship with, and ended up being the beginning of 3 years of her being bedridden. And God was actually preparing to move me to California, where I had to begin to learn how to trust people and start to do life. And my first week out here, I went to a home group, and he said, if you stay out here and help take care of your mom, I'll put you into a family. And so that began a journey of really learning what it looks like to be in a healthy, right, family, which a lot different than I grew up in, but this is the family of God. This is what the whole world needs. So.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. That was a great discussion. And, I think it's good stepping stones to just learn how to, surrender and let God continue to build our family, trustworthy family. And I just want to thank everybody and thank you for our online audience. And we just say hi to Mama and Papa Doug. Mama Debbie, Papa Doug, and they will be back in 2 weeks. 1 more week. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.